a big vote and a strong yes vote will give us power to make the plan effective.
I'm here today on Haven Green with Tony Miller, who's the chair of the Central Ealing Neighbourhood Forum. The Central Ealing Neighbourhood Forum is a conglomerate of local residents, businesses and community groups. Now, the forum itself has formulated what's called the Central Ealing Neighbourhood Plan, which is what residents in the Central Ealing area are going to be voting on this Thursday during our referendum. Tony, obviously we're on the final stretch of leading up to the referendum. How's the campaign trail been?
Oh, it's been quite encouraging. The problem has been how little people knew about it when we started, because there's been so little publicity. We're entirely reliant on what we put out. The council hasn't put anything out other than a bare factual statement. So we've had to try and get information out to individuals who got the vote. That's businesses as well as residents. That's been quite a tough go, but we've had a lot of positive feedback, so I'm hoping that we should get a good vote on Thursday.
And the plan itself is obviously a lot of thought's gone into it. There are many different aims outlined on your website at centralealingforum.com. Could you firstly tell us about some of the intent or the inspiration itself behind the plan? How did it come about?
Well, it all started from the Localism Act in 2011, which allows local communities to prepare their own plans to control what development will look like within their own local areas. During that time, we were aware that when Crossrail comes, as we can hear in the background with the rail, there will be a lot more pressure on Ealing because of far 36% increase in passengers coming through the station is forecast, and of course a lot of building will take place because it becomes a much more attractive place to live and a lot more flats are being built, and that will put quite a lot of pressure on facilities and amenity and such like. And we wanted to be sure that development, whilst we welcome change, and particularly some of the older more run-down parts of the borough need to be refreshed, but it's got to be done in such a way that it doesn't destroy the historic character of the place.
Well, that brings me on to two of the listed points on the website pertaining to both, I believe it's architectural heritage and key buildings. About a decade ago, Ealing Broadway saw the loss of the famous Ealing Cinema with its beautiful Art Deco facade. At the moment, we're due to see the loss of, in West Ealing, the old Woolworths building, which equally has a beautiful Art Deco facade. How will the plan ensure that such key heritage buildings in future are protected for the community and help to maintain the unique character of our borough?
Those buildings that you mentioned, or some of them anyway, are legally protected. The problem has been that the legal protection hasn't always been as strong as it might have been, and hasn't been enforced as strongly as we would like. So historic buildings and what I call buildings of facade value in the planning jargon can be better protected by legal means. And that's one of the things that we are concentrating on, to try and make sure that when new building does take place, and we know it's got to, that we don't throw away what is valuable of the old.
Of course. Because
that's the peculiar characteristic of Ealing and its Victorian and Edwardian heritage, which we want to see preserved.
Now, one of the reasons I've decided to, have this interview here on Haven Green is because of the cycle hub behind us. Now, currently as it stands, Ealing Council is planning to retrospectively deregister this land because they've already built on it, supposedly, as far as I've read, without the needed ministerial consent. As listed firstly in the plan, there's the ensurement of the protection of green and open spaces in Central Ealing. Will the plan affect the council's plans in turn to deregister the land here? Will it put a halt to it? Will it change it at all? Or?
Well, the public hearing into that application has now taken place, and the inspector has recommended that the deregistration of a small part of the land, which is the land which is behind you where the actual hub is, the buildings are, he's allowed that because, according to the council, they couldn't find any alternative place to put it. We don't altogether agree with that. We think, for example, the car park, which is immediately here, some of that could have been used for cycle parking because it's right close to the station. The land and the bicycles that you can see on the green here will go. And the inspector has said, and the council has accepted, that those have got to be moved. And we believe the council has made an application to put some of them onto this car park, which means that the green space behind us can be restored as a green space. And what the plan does, it goes a little bit further by making the whole of the area what is called a public open space, a public green space rather. And as a public or local green space, it's going to have additional protection similar to that which is given to Green Belt, which previously it hasn't had any protection in planning law.
One of the key points I mentioned, one of the key points I noticed as a part of the plan is the intent to support a sustainable local economy. Yes. Could you elaborate upon this at all a bit more?
Well, by sustainable, it's one of those words which has lots of different meanings, but it really means, are the things we're doing now going to last for not just 10 years, but for a generation, several generations? Because the buildings you see around us have all been built 100 years or more ago. Some of them are now looking their age, but others need protection. In the same way, we want to be sure that what's happening now will last. And in order for them to last, they've not only got to be of a decent architectural quality, but also have a proper purpose. And Ealing needs the development because it's got to compete with places like Westfield and Brent Cross. But it can't compete head on, so what it's got to do is to trade on its own special character and build on that. And that special character is not only the building and the style of the buildings, but also the things that happen here. The cultural heritage, its arts heritage, for example. People forget sometimes that Ealing is the home of cinema, UK cinema. It's also the home of rock and pop music through what happened here in just over the other side of these railway tracks in the Red Room, the Ealing Club, and the blues movement, which was founded here. And we want that cultural heritage to be encouraged and to survive. And at the moment, we're losing space all the time where those activities can take place. And one of our priorities is the provision of new cultural space for community use. And that is the number one item for public expenditure that we want to have is in the plan, and we want to see realised in the next few years.
Of course, well, Tony, I feel that we've now touched upon some integral parts of Ealing's unique character. We've also touched upon the subjects of green and open spaces, architecture and the economy. Given that we now only have 3 days until the referendum, do you have any other words that you may wish to add as to why people should go out on Thursday and vote yes to ensure that the plan comes to fruition?
Yeah, the reason why it's important, in my view, why people should come out, because not only is this a unique event, it's the first time in London where businesses and community have come together to prepare a plan. And the greater the number of people that vote for it and come out and say yes, the more power it has, the more influence it will have when planning applications come forward and the council has to decide on what is to happen. So a big vote and a strong yes vote will give us power to make the plan effective.
And so for the plan to become effective and as such become a part of the statutory development plan for Central Ealing, which by the way is a bit of a mouthful, a majority of residents and businesses in the Central Ealing area must turn up and vote yes. So that means a majority of those who turn up have to vote yes for this plan to become actualised. In turn, polling stations on Thursday will be open from 7 a.m. until 10 p.m. and until then, if you want to find any further information on the subject, firstly, you probably received one of these leaflets through your door. You can also go onto the website centralealingforum.com where you'll find more information regarding the aims of the plan,
including the whole of the plan, which is visible here and in the Central Library and in the Town Hall.